Hey everyone, we're going to be going over the recommended deck for the Caius raid in Yu-Gi-Oh! Cross Duel. Right, so here is the deck, and as usual, the ace is Elemental Hero Neos. I think I said this in the last video. If you have an Elemental Hero Neos, invest in it. I really do want to still get I really do want to get a third slot on this Neos, but there's still quite a few like ultra rares I don't have yet, and I'm still kind of holding out just in case I do pull a third one in a booster pack. But anyway, let's get over the deck. So the main focus of the Caius raid is anti-raid monster. Caius is going to send a bunch of raid monsters at you, and your main goal is not really to do damage to him, but just to defeat these raid monsters, because every time you do defeat a raid monster, he's going to take 10,000 damage at the end of the turn. At the higher levels, everyone is going to have one raid monster going down the main lane, and two people are going to have a weaker raid monster going down the side lanes. The fact that the raid monster comes down the main lane is actually really good, because then you can use your Elemental Hero Neos, knowing it will just go into the boss, get destroyed, and come back to your hand. Whereas if you put it down the side lane, it's not necessarily going to get destroyed. At the highest level as well, these raid monsters are going to have 5,500 attack each. The good news is that they are slow, so it is going to take them 2 turns to reach you. But at the highest level, you're roughly going to have to take out, I think, around 22 of these raid monsters in total to stagger the boss. Now, that roughly means 5 and a bit raid monsters each. So it really does help when you can take out these really powerful raid monsters in one go. Elemental Hero Neos, with its raid skill, when you summon it, is going to go up to 4,500 attack. With a double sacrifice, with one sacrifice, he'll go up to 3,000 attack, which kind of makes it, again, if you have 3 slots, you can get this up to 4,500 every single turn. And this raid does have a special bonus in that level 7 and 8 monsters are going to get an additional 2 anti-raid monster skill, which means every single turn, if you do have 3 slots in Elemental Hero Neos, or you make 2 sacrifices for it, it is going to come out with 4,500 attack. It's going to reduce the main raid monster to 4,500 attack and destroy it in a single turn, which is really, really, really good. I haven't got that here, but again, we mentioned going over the Stardust deck in the last video. If you have that, if at least one person has that Stardust deck, it makes this raid go a whole lot more smoothly. Let's go over the cards really quick. As I just mentioned, Elemental Hero Neos is our main. If you're not using Elemental Hero Neos, I have seen people use Supreme Maximum because it sits at the back, and its raid skill is it gives all your monsters with anti-boss monster an additional anti-boss monster. That can work, and I have seen people buff it up with the spell card that gives it another 2 anti-raid monsters. I have seen people use that, but overall I think it's a bit slow, and I think the Elemental Hero Neos way of doing things is a lot faster, especially if someone has a Stardust deck. So yeah, the maximum summon card, not a bad way to go about things, but overall Elemental Hero Neos is just a lot better in that respect. And if you have the chance of upgrading one or the other, I would definitely go with Elemental Hero Neos over the maximum summon. But let's get into the cards. So I have Blue Eyes White Dragon in here. You really do not need Blue Eyes. I have it mainly because it has the immunity to attack defense reduction. Sometimes the boss will put down a spell trap on the middle lane, meaning that it will reduce your Neos to 0 attack if you put it down there. That's the whole reason why I have Blue Eyes in. It really isn't needed. I think on those turns you are okay with just putting down any other monster that has immunity to attack defense reduction to do a bit of damage. Blue Eyes is really not needed here. You don't need to have this card in. And as you can see, we only really have 3 super rares in this deck, and none of them are absolutely needed. We do have Trickstar Candina. This is mainly because it has immunity to attack defense reduction. When the boss does this ability on the middle lane, you don't want to just leave it open. You want to actually put something down there to weaken the anti-raid monster, because sometimes the boss can do 2 really annoying skills one turn after the other, and if you're not prepared for that, the raid monster is going to get through and get to your life points. So you really do want to weaken it on those turns where it does do these skills. I also have Dragon Dowser. Again, this is just because I have 2 slots for it and it has 2 anti-raid monsters. if you don't have this, if you don't have either of these two, that's fine. Just put in a rare, like any rare monster that has anti-raid monster instead. Yeah, just put in any other anti-raid monster instead. There is Alligator Sword, there is Blade Skater, or any monster that has immunity to attack defense reduction. They're also going to be very useful in this. You really do not need to have any of these. And then finally for super rares, I have Gagaga Cleric. This is basically to get out 2 monsters for a potential double sacrifice on the next turn for Blue Eyes or for Elemental Hero Neos. I think if you just have in Elemental Hero Neos and you don't have in any other double sacrifices, it's really not needed. You can also use the Scapegoat card instead of this or anything like that. We'll get on to the meat and potatoes of the deck. So first of all, we have a bunch of anti-raid monsters. At the higher level, the raid monsters that get... these are mainly for attacking the raid monsters that get sent down the side lane. Down the middle, I'm pretty much always going to be summoning Elemental Hero Neos, unless the boss puts down a skill which reduces the attack to 0, at which point I will summon another monster, like say Zubaba Knight, that has an attack defense, immunity to attack defense reduction. So all of these cards here are basically in here for attacking the side lane. Try and get as many anti-boss sort of slots as you can, because if it destroys a monster down the side lane and another one spawns the next turn, you're going to get that anti-raid boss monster effect basically doubled, because it's going to happen on the first monster and then it's going to happen on the second monster. So having as many of those as you can. Vice Dragon is another really good one because it gets an additional one just by being a level 5. So you can put in the Speedy Summon, you don't need to sacrifice for it, and it's going to get free anti-boss monster slots. So that's what we have here. I've also tried to put in, include as many monsters with, even if they don't have anti-boss monster, with immunity to attack defense reduction as I can. And you can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, including the super rare. This is just, again, for if the boss uses one of those skills, and it's really advised not to leave the raid monster, not to really wait a turn if you can. Just try and put down a monster with anti-defense attack defense reduction and sort of hit that monster. Apart from that, we have a couple of assist heal monsters in the deck. We have Bitron, Sonata, Wing Karibo, basically free assist heal monsters. Unlike the Blue Eyes raid, Caius does not hit as hard. Surviving in this raid is definitely not as difficult as it is in that previous raid. Now, Caius also does summon objects in this raid, but they only go up to 2 at maximum. If you are looking, I don't have any in this deck. I could probably change out Giant Soldier of Stone for one. If you don't have any, if you are looking for if you do have some spare spaces in the deck and you need to fill them, maybe throw in an anti-object monster or 2. If you are still looking for spaces and you need to put in cards, I would put in cards that have detonated, like Giant Soldier of Stone here, because that way, even if the boss does, change your monster's attack and defense to 0, this will still die. It will still reduce the attack and defense of the raid monster coming at you. So that is the deck. We don't have any spells or traps in, as you might notice, but I want to note out a couple of good ones that might be worth putting in, just in case. Ideally, you do not want to have more than really 2 or 3 spells and traps. They become dead draws. You want to have as many monsters as you can possibly have in this deck, and that's why we have so many here, because at worst case scenario, our monster becomes a sacrifice for Elemental Hero Neos. So again, I mentioned Scapegoat. I don't have the card, but if you do have it, that can also be a good one to put in. You can put that going down the side lane to attack an object. It can become a sacrifice on the next turn. Another really good one is Intercept Wave. All of the all of the raid monsters are going to have negative skills. So this is going to work on all of them, and it's going to reduce their attack by 1,500. You can also use this to help an ally if you need to. Cards such as Michizuri and Blue Eyes' master skill do not work in this raid. You have to destroy the raid monsters by battle. Destroying them by a trap or an effect does not count. So just be wary of using cards like Michizuri in this raid. The other card that might be useful is Rurikyoku Field, which means that it will give your monster an immunity to attack defense reduction if the boss tries to use it on you. And depending on how you have your deck set up, you can have in the Warrior Return Alive to bring back 2 monsters from your graveyard. That's really it. You really want your spell cards to be value. I really would not recommend having in more than 2 or 3 spells and traps combined. But anyway, that is the deck. You are going to see the Stardust deck that I had in the Blue Eyes video back on this. The Stardust deck is also very good for this raid. If you have not seen the Stardust deck, go check out the Blue Eyes video, which I'll put a link in the description below to it. The Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon Raid video. That deck helps a lot with this, especially if you're playing with AI, as it will buff up the AI's monsters, do more damage to all the raid monsters overall, and just help out everyone. But anyway, with the deck out the way, let's get into the duel.
My eye can see the future, even how this duel will end. Bear witness to Caius, the Shadow Monarch.
Right, so we're pretty fortunate to start off with Dark Resonator in our hand. As you can see, however, that first ability is probably the worst possible one we could start off with. It chooses the highest monster, the highest attack monster on the field, negates its skills, and reduces its attack to 0. Not a nice one. But at the same time, we don't want to just skip our turn. We want to actually put something out and use it to attack the boss. Now, if you are playing a Stardust deck, like this person is here, you can summon Stardust because it does have immunity to skill negation, or at least if you have a free slot Stardust. Its attack will go down to 0 though, but its ability is still going to buff up all of your allies' monsters' attack, which is going to help out greatly. So you still want to summon it even on this turn, even if if you are a Stardust player. And sometimes you can have a monster out that goes above 3,500, meaning that Stardust won't actually get its attack reduced to 0 on this turn. So that is one of the main abilities to watch out for. If you summon your elemental hero Neos during that turn, just be warned. So this ability is not too bad. It just reduces the monsters on the middle lane, on the side lanes that are red to 0. As you can see here, we have summoned Neos. We've also played elemental hero Basinatrix on the left to deal with the weaker raid monster coming at us. One thing to note about the spell that the raid boss is currently using is that if you do play a monster in that lane and its attack is reduced to 0, the raid boss will instantly kill it at the end of the turn and do more damage to you because of it. So you do want to watch out for that.
Nicely done. That's a lifesaver. We're moving to the battle phase. I wonder what'll happen. Okay, let's move. Nicely done. You defeated the darkness? Take him down. You defeated the darkness? Nicely done. Take him down. Nicely done! Let the shadows embrace you! Phew, still in this! I release the darkness! Don't disappoint me. Draw the card!
Right, this is another really annoying one if you do have Neos, because it will reduce Neos' attack to 0. You can use a third slot on Neos to give him immunity to attack defense reduction. As you can see here, I've also not put another monster on the left to deal with the weaker raid monster because we already have Basinatrix there. And Basinatrix is going to reduce that raid monster's attack by 1,500. Not to mention, our ally is playing Stardust, so we're going to get a boost from that as well. So there was really no need to actually play anything on that lane. We have still played something in the middle lane because even though the raid monster is not going to kill us this turn, we don't... it's very dangerous to just kind of leave it and let it come to you, because next turn the boss could very much play that skill that he used on the very first turn, and you could be left with unable to play your Neos, unable to really attack that raid boss. And the anti-raid monster skill only works if your monster is in attack mode. So defending up is going to be very painful if you do need to do that.
Direct attack! Phew, still in this. I summon a monster. Don't disappoint me. Draw a card.
Right, and it's been 3 turns and we're already halfway towards getting the 22 we need to beat the boss. So I left Gagaga Cleric in my hand there and used Zababa Knight because Gagaga Cleric is capable of giving me 2 sacrifices, and I know I still have a Blue Eyes in my deck somewhere, and I want to make sure that if I draw Blue Eyes, I can actually play it. Again, Blue Eyes is definitely not needed for your deck. I think as long as you have Elemental Hero Neos, that is definitely enough.
We're moving to the battle phase. I activate a trap. Dark illusion.
And this trap card that the boss has just used is probably the best one we can hope for. Our deck has no spell or trap cards in. So whenever the boss uses this this ability, this is just a free turn for us.
You defeated the darkness? You defeated the darkness? How dare you? Vanish into the shadows. Go! Nicely done. Direct attack. Phew, still in this. I summon a monster. You will learn the depths of my darkness.
Okay, so it is the the horrible skill this turn as well, which is really annoying. So what I'm doing is I'm summoning... I need to summon something to attack that right side, and I feel like our life points are still kind of high enough that I don't need to use Wing Kuribo just yet. I'm also thinking that, hey, on the next turn I can potentially use both sacrifices for Elemental Hero Neos, or I can just get out Gagaga Magician, let Stardust power it up turn after turn, and then if something attacks me down that lane, I can just switch it to attack mode and deal with it.
We're moving to the battle phase. I activate my spell, Tenacity of the Monarchs. I wonder what'll happen. Okay, let's move. Vanish into the shadows. Impossible. Impossible. Let the darkness swallow.
Now, unfortunately, the AI does start to suffer, even with Stardust at this late stage in the game. And it also starts to make fairly silly moves, like attacking the object rather than actually defending up the middle sometimes. Don't ask me why.
Let the shadows embrace you.
But we are very, very close now. We're only five monsters away from weakening the boss, and we still have basically 2 turns to do it in.
I think you're its target.
So here I'm I'm in a little bit of a tough position because I can switch Gagaga to attack mode, but it would be 100 attack points less than what I need it to be. So in the end, I just decided to sacrifice it and figure I'd deal with that lane on the next turn. But at the same time, I think you could have easily switch it to attack mode, get the raid monster down to 100, so it's a lot easier to deal with on the next turn. I did just kind of want to make sure that I still have, if I do draw my Blue Eyes, I still had the Hippo in order to summon it. So you can see how already just having Blue Eyes in my deck is affecting my decisions in a negative way, really. So again, that is just another reason to to only have Neos in your deck as your sacrifice monster. You really, really don't need Blue Eyes.
Nicely done.
Right, and just like that, we are 20 of 22 raid monsters defeated. Now, we do have to take out 2 of them in this next turn. If it does get to turn number 8, the boss does only have 36,000 health left. So if we actually take out 4 more raid monsters, the boss is just dead.
Still in this. I release the darkness. You will learn the depths of my darkness. You're on your way to winning.
Fortunately, it's Curse of Fiend, which is a pretty easy one to deal with. So we are just going to summon Neos with Hippo to get that extra 1,000 attack out of it. Summon Sparkman on the left, which will easily deal with that raid monster on the left, and that's the last 2 we need to kill just by our monsters alone.
Nicely done. That's a lifesaver. We're moving to the battle phase. I activate my spell, Curse of Fiend. Oh no. I wonder what'll happen. Okay, let's move. Impossible.
Now, I think it is fairly fortunate that we're winning on this turn, because I'm not sure how much longer the AI would have lasted.
Take him down. Nicely done. Take him down. Sink into the abyss. Go. Nicely done.
Right, and just like that, we don't even need to attack him in his weakened state. He should just be taken right down to 0. And that is the end of the raid. So, another fairly easy raid. I think this one is a little tougher than the Blue Eyes event raid that's currently out. But again, very, very similar decks for both raids. The Stardust deck really, really does help out in this raid as well. Thanks very much for watching. Subscribe to the channel for more content, and I will see you on the ladder.